So do you think that with this obsessing and the restricting mindset, do you think it's because we're not appreciating ourselves, we're missing something on the inside? What do you think that is? Where it's because that's what causes the emotional eating afterwards, right? Like the restriction and the obsessing and the
Right.
what's going on the inside?
This is what I like to talk to my clients about. It's like, okay, the first step is understanding what the trigger is. Okay. So let's talk about an emotional eating episode, for example, like whatever that is for you. And a lot of people will have their clutch emotional eating go-to, right? The first step in that is finding out what is the trigger that causes you to do that. And I always give them permission. I'm like, listen, you're going to binge again. It's going to happen. The sooner you accept that, the better, right? This whole like, I'm never going to do it again thing is how has that been going for you?
Right.
Not working, right? Okay. So the first step is accepting you're going to do it again, but being the observer. And this is why meditation is so important and has been so life-changing, because you learn to be the observer of your life instead of just in it, right? So you get some perspective and you can say, that's interesting that I'm doing that. Okay. So I'll give you an example. This was after my health journey. I had gotten like super fit. I went through like that crazy guy relationship. I was going through a bankruptcy. I had nowhere to go, no one to stay with. I lost everything. It was super scary. I'm coming out of that. I'm starting to rebuild my life. And I noticed all of a sudden I was driving to the gas station to go get a donut at night, like 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, what is going on with me? I don't do that. I'm like way past that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and it happened like 3 times. And on the 3rd time, what I did was I had an out loud conversation with myself in the car. Because I believe that when we don't verbalize it, when we don't speak it, when we don't release it, what we will do is in our head, we'll start to process the thought. And when it gets hard, we'll just drop it. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we don't want to deal with it.
Right.
So I was like, what's going on with you? And I made myself answer. There's so much power in that. You can be your own therapist a little bit, because when you have to answer what's going on with you, you got to be real. You got to be honest. And that's where I found the truth. I was like, what is going on with you? And I was like, I'm stressed out because it's 11 o'clock at night and I should be going to sleep, but I'm just sitting down to start writing a new program. And I was like, and I'm driving to the gas station because it's an excusable reason to not sit here and do this stressful thing that I don't know how to do. I'm overwhelmed. This is just a bad idea overall. And I said to myself, you have the choice right now. You are still on your way there. You can change it. What are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to drive home. And I turned around and I drove home. And the reason I want to bring this up is 2 things. One, speaking it, a lot of power, identifying what the trigger was, because then you can call your own BS. It's like the next time it happens, you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. This is the same thing. I don't want to work on this project right now. And that's why all of a sudden the donut sounds really good. For me, it was a procrastination tool. I was using it as a tool. It was like, okay, reason. Cause I just, I work out, I'm good. I just want a donut right now. I was using it as a procrastination tool. So that was really powerful. The other thing was that I'd like to talk about is the Pavlov effect, or classical conditioning, right? So Pavlov, this is really common teaching in psychology. If you take a psychology 101 class, you'll learn about classical conditioning. And basically what happened in this experiment was they had dogs and they would bring the dogs food and the dogs would salivate upon sight of the food, which is normal. We all do that. Well, then they started to ring a bell at the same time that they brought the dogs the food. And so then the dogs started to associate this trigger, the bell, with food. And eventually all they had to do was ring a bell and the dogs would begin to salivate. Mm-hmm. And so these triggers that we associate with food, when we continue to choose to make the choice of, I don't want to do my program right now, I'm stressed out, donut. I'm stressed out, donut. I'm stressed out. The more we choose to do it, the more we repeat it, we are conditioning ourselves to have that stress response. And there's so much power in that, because we act like powerless. I don't know what's wrong with me. I emotionally eat. I self-sabotage. My mom told me I was fat when I was little. I have all these issues. You have the power to choose and create your stress response. This is why I'm an advocate of cold showers.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't done a cold shower, do it. I do it every day. And I do it every day so I can make sure. And I never want to do it ever, every single day. Like right now, do you feel like going in there and taking a cold shower? No, like in the moment, like I never want to do it. But I do it because it has taught me how to control my stress response. Instead of being like, oh my gosh, no, and turn it off and freak out, I choose to, that feels really good. And so when we do that with emotional eating, when we can choose our stress response, and you are now, think of it as I am conditioning a new stress response. So what I did that day, and it was excruciating. I wanted that donut so freaking bad. Like I really, even when I got home, I was like, I like really freaking want that. And I went home and I was like, okay, you can have it. You can go back and you can get it. But first, just lay in your bed and do deep diaphragmatic breathing into your belly for 10 minutes. So I set a timer for 10 minutes and I started breathing into my belly. And you know what happened? I fell asleep. And so then every time I wanted the donut, I just started diaphragmatic breathing. I was like, you can have it. You can have donuts. You can have the whole freaking case of donuts if you want to. And I think permission is really important.
Huge,
right? Because as soon as we start saying like, can't, it becomes this forbidden fruit, and our little inner 5-year-old comes out and is like, yes, I can. Just a side note. I like to say like I have a 7-year-old, right? And if I told Micah randomly out of the blue, he's just minding his own business. And I'm like, Micah, you can't have candy. Okay, well, what does he want all of a sudden? Like, I am not a fan of restrictions. Even if you're doing a restriction, you got a positive mindset it somehow, right? Like right now I'm only eating for February. I'm doing this with a client where I'm only eating unprocessed foods, but it's not, I can't have processed foods. It's, I'm only eating whole foods. Big difference there. Right? Like big difference. Cause it's positive. It's, oh, is it a whole food? Oh no, it's not a whole food. Not, oh, I can't have that. I wish I could have that, but it's processed. There's a huge difference. So keep that positive spin. And then realize like every single time you choose, you are training in you are conditioning yourself a new stress response. And that is powerful.
So it's such a good tool. Cause I never did that. I was always like, I'm going to go eat now. Thanks. I'm like, I had the worst day ever. I'm going to go eat. Like Italian family. That's what mom did. It was like, let me make you something yummy, because so it's like, that was a conditioned response for me. And so when I have a stressful whatever, I go right for the food and I black out. Cause do we ever want to look at our pain and Amazon? We want to Amazon Prime our pain, right, just
totally
hit the button and like, nope, like just take care. I don't want to address it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to do anything but just comfort. Right. And so that's such a beautiful way where, cause you feel like, oh, I can't have it, but now I'm going to go after it. But when you're just, no, I can have it, but like, let's take 5 minutes and really go through what's actually happening. That's huge.